this is a big, big operation. The police will facilitate democratic protests, but anything at all that endangers the safety of either the president or the public, they'll clamp down on quite heavily.
Well, let's consider more about Donald Trump's visit to Scotland to visit his 2 golf courses. Affairs of state, though, continue. Israel's actions in Gaza are reportedly threatening to overshadow the next few days. It is proving something of a diplomatic nightmare for Sir Keir Starmer, who's expected to visit the US president on Monday. As he landed at the salubrious Prestwick airport, President Trump was asked what he makes of President Macron's decision to recognise a state of Palestine.
Well, that's what he does. I mean, that's fine if he does that. That's up to him. It's not up to me. I'm with the United States. I'm not with France.
And the humanitarian situation in Gaza, we hear very dire warnings about...
I think it's terrible what happened with Hamas. They tapped everybody along, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what response Israel has to that. But it's getting to be that time.
Well, Trump had only positive words about Sir Keir Starmer.
I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done.
And he went straight in on the Commission of News, talking tough on migration, which he said is killing Europe.
You better get your act together, or you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. And we, as you know, last month we had nobody entering our country, nobody. Shut it down. And we took out a lot of bad people that got there with Biden. Biden was a total stiff. And what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe.
Well, John Boothman is the Times Scotland political correspondent. Morning, John.
Morning, Callum.
So then, the official, I suppose the visit starts today. I mean, it is a private trip. It was always going to be a spectacle, but it feels like it's actually escalating in terms of how much of a spectacle it's going to be.
Look, a private trip, yeah, he wants to play a few rounds of golf. He wants to promote his new golf course in Aberdeen, which they open officially on Tuesday. But that list getting longer and longer. He's meeting Ursula von der Leyen. We heard yesterday she's coming to Turnberry tomorrow to talk about trade deals, and no doubt that immigration issue that is on the front page of the Times will be mentioned. He wants to talk to Starmer about fine-tuning the trade deal. Starmer probably wants to talk about Ukraine. He's meeting John Swinney as well. John Swinney wants to talk about Gaza, and he wants to talk about Scottish interests. So there's a whole host of issues on the President's in tray for the next couple of days.
How do the likes of Swinney and Starmer approach Trump in this context? A private visit, I mean, there'll probably be some press statements or something around whatever they've talked about, but I wonder how much we'll learn about what goes on in the room.
Look, you don't have to travel far when you're anywhere near Donald Trump to hear what he thinks. But I think, Starmer's made a virtue, and people praise him for this, of actually disagreeing with the president in private and trying to make those disagreements not so public. And that seems to be his success where other people have failed.
What's it like round Turnberry, which is where Trump arrived last night, John? I've seen it described in the Times as being something like a sort of American prison, such as the level of lockdown.
Look, there's a big steel fence just about round the whole resort. There's police everywhere you go. There's army vehicles. There's police there's drones, there's boats. This is a big, big deal, costing a lot of money. 6,000 police officers from not just Scotland but across the UK in order to protect the president. Now, there'll be protests. I'm going along to Edinburgh this morning. There's going to be one in Aberdeen. I don't expect two big protests, though there'll be something round about the 2 golf courses because they can be cordoned off. But, this is a big, big operation. The police will facilitate democratic protests, but anything at all that endangers the safety of either the president or the public, they'll clamp down on quite heavily.
What do you make of the First Minister John Swinney's comments? He told protesters to do Scotland proud and behave peacefully and lawfully during the visit. I only pick that up because there's a bit of tension within the SNP about the meeting of Swinney and Trump and whether it should even happen.
Well, look, Swinney doesn't want any trouble. Of course, the SNP has got very, very strong views on issues like Palestine, and Swinney really needs to, to take his way through that. He's been a big supporter of the Palestinians. He's got to, on the one hand, watch his back. But look, Swinney's also been very, very clear that it's important to meet the president. He's not going to back off that. And it's important that he puts Scotland case. Look, there's some big issues for Scotland in this, not least around trade. Not least around issues like whisky. I heard the Scotch Whisky Association saying yesterday that the current tariff regime is costing £200 million a year to whisky companies. So there's big issues for Swinney. But, I think he's trying to, ride both horses, if that's the way of putting it. And he's done okay in that so far. There's some bother within the SNP about it, but nothing that I think is going to cause them a great deal of trouble.
Yeah. Well, out of interest, do you know if they've ever met before, John? I'm just wondering if in the kind of Salmond versus Trump, not versus Trump, but Salmond-Trump golf course development era, Swinney would have been around then as well. I wonder if he's ever encountered him.
Yeah, Swinney had some part in the discussions round about the approval of the Many Estate, the Aberdeenshire golf course. As you know, that was very controversial. That's when we heard for a lot of the time when Trump went there, the whole controversy about windmills, as he called them. There was a big development round about the golf course of a big wind farm, and Trump objected to that. And Swinney had some hand at that point in the approval of that. So, yeah, look, John Swinney's been around in Scottish politics, as you know, right, for 40 years. Yeah. And he's been in the government since 2007. So, yeah, he's had some encounters with Donald Trump before. I was interested yesterday, given Trump's antipathy for Alex Salmond, the late Alex Salmond, and for Nicola Sturgeon, about how he described John Swinney as being a good guy.
Yeah, fair point. He did have some more comments, refreshing his comments on windmills, as you reference, as he calls them, yesterday. He's quite strong when it comes to oil and gas versus the transition to renewables, is Donald Trump, and how Scotland's part in that, in his view, is going wrong.
Well, he's the drill baby drill man, isn't he? And, he's got this huge antipathy both at home and abroad to windmills, as he calls them. He thinks there's a blight in the environment, but he also, thinks that Scotland should be extracting oil to its maximum economic value. So, of course, we're going to hear stuff about this, given that he himself said that he's looking forward to going to the oil capital of Europe in Aberdeen, where he'll be on Monday and Tuesday.
Always good to speak to you, John. Thank you very much. Have fun this weekend. It's going to be a big one. Scotland is the centre of the universe, and John Boothman, the Times Scotland political correspondent, will report it all for you in the paper at thetimes.com and on Times Radio as well.